Hello, this is not doing have this. Don't be more reading, not many commentaries on it, I guess. But Genesis chapter 10 is something wholly unique to the Bible, at least in the Middle East. The Table of Nations. This is the account of Shem, Ham, and Japheth, Noah's sons, who themselves had sons after the flood. The Japhethites. The sons of Japheth: Gomer, Magog, the first use of Magog, Medai, Javan, Turnbull, Mesich, and Taurus. These are just the different groups of people the Israelites had encounters with throughout the Middle East and stuff. And also, son of doesn't necessarily mean a male descendant. It could mean also treaty or someone in servitude. But if you know from this time period, like Egypt and all of these other countries are like my brother or my father or to like each other even. So yeah, it doesn't necessarily mean they're the male descendant. The sons of Gomer: Azkayan, Rephith, and Torgurima. The sons of Javan: Elish, Tarish. Tarish? No. Okay. Yeah, Tarish. The Kittim and the Rotum. From these, the maritime peoples spread out into their territories by their clans, and in their region, and their nations with their own language, which each with its own language. Oh yeah, they kept track of this stuff. It just never was written down in their stories because they didn't care much about it. And Moses would clearly have gotten this from his education in ancient Egypt, being part of the royal family. They have this all written down. You should know who's the son of who they claim descendants from, blah, blah, blah. Who are these people? Many people say they are European, or at least the Greek and Turkish people around. Well, I say Greek and Turkish, even though the Turks didn't come into Turkey yet. Around, but now Greek and Turkey, or I guess Anatolia using its old name. Anyway, the Hamites, the sons of Ham: Cush, Mizraim, or Egypt, Put, and Canaan. The sons of Cush: Seba, Havlah, Sebeth, Rema, and Sekbaka. The sons of Rema: Sheba and Dedan. Notice how some of these, it just ends. That's because it is not. There are some elements of it where they're trying to get numbers out of it because numbers are extremely important to ancient peoples. But it does not make it any less accurate or any more fictional. So we don't know how many generations or people were in here. And also, it doesn't say how old these people are. How can you get a proper age of the earth if it doesn't even say how old these people were when this happened? Exactly. Anyway, Cush was the father of Nimrod, who grew to be a mighty warrior on the earth. He was a mighty warrior, a mighty hunter before the Lord. That is why it says, like Nimrod, a mighty hunter before the Lord. Again, inspired philosophy, day of video on who Nimrod is, or was. Some people say it's like Sargon of Akkad. Some people have other claims. But anyway, the first centers of his kingdom were Babylon, Etrecht, Arcadia, and Cleveland, in Shinar. From that land he went to Assyria, where he built Nineveh, Rehoboth, Ara, Kala, and Rezin, in which is between Nineveh and Kala. That is the great city. Now here's the thing when you know about Nimrod. Nowhere does it say he was ever worshipped as a god. Notice, if you ever watch a Christmas is pagan video, a Easter is pagan video, or the Catholic Church is full of evil pagans, you will hear them claim the Catholic Church worships Nimrod, and the Babylonians worshipped Nimrod. Nimrod wasn't a god. There is no evidence Nimrod was a god. In these verses, there's nothing to indicate Nimrod was a god. He was just a guy who was a great warrior who took over some lands and built some cities. Last time I checked, that wasn't really divine qualities. Now, was it? Compared to, half the stuff the God of the Bible does. Or even if you look at some of the mythological gods, they do way more impressive things than Nimrod. So yes, it's complete and utter conspiracy theory that Nimrod was a Babylonian god. There is no proof. All your evidence, if you're listening, all your evidence comes from a book called The Two Babylons. That's it. That's it. That's all. That is where the entire argument originated. That's it. That's all. You have nothing else to go on. Yeah. Flat Earthers, they have more to go on, actually. And so do young Earth creationists. Yeah. I'm not saying those two things are true. I'm just saying they're more logically coherent than the idea Babylon worshipped Nimrod, and then Nimrod was reincarnated, and the Easter comes from that. Just some BS. Anyway, let's continue down the things. Actually, technically all it says he found one theory. Nineveh. Okay. Oh, wait, no, he did build a few. Never mind. Mesrim was the father of the Ludites, Amorites, Annonites, Levites, Nephritites, Parathrasites, Clemensites, whom the Philistines came from. Again, that's interesting. Philistine is also kind of sometimes included as thought of as the Greek area. Or it's a different group of Philistines altogether. Yeah, this wouldn't be the first time there was a historical Philistines that we know the Bible is talking about, and another group of Philistines the Bible mentions, or the Bible doesn't mention. Because the Hittites, there were the Hittites in Turkey, then there's the Hittites mentioned in the Bible. Both of them were real Hittites. Both of them existed. Both of them are very different groups of people. Anyway, Canaan was the father of Sidon, his firstborn, of the Hittites, Jebusites, Amorites, Girgashites, Hivites, Achorites, Sinites, Aphrodites, Zemarites, and Hemarathites. So potentially, if it's the groups of people, they just made a contract to work or be aligned or something. Potentially. Later, the Canaanite clans, or maybe if it's just a more fuzzy genealogy. I don't know how up to snuff Egypt's genealogy was. I guess God did probably correct some of it, but that's not the main point of the Table of Nations. I will get to the main point of the Table of Nations at the end of it. Anyway, later the Canaanite clans gathered, and the boundaries of Canaan reached from Sidon towards Gerar as far as Gaza. No, that's Giza, what the pyramids are. I know there are a few people who probably get them confused, and don't worry, it's not your bad. They are spelled similar. Anyway, and then towards Sodom, Gomorrah, Amorah, and Zebulun, as far as Lasha. Sodom and Gomorrah. I mean, this was from before Sodom and Gomorrah were destroyed. This is some ancient sources, which of course Egypt would have in the records, and Moses being part of the royal family would have had access to. These are the sons of Ham by their clans and languages in their territories and nations. Yes, I'm just saying Moses like he was an actual person, because all the arguments against his actual existence are absolutely terrible. And they absolutely serve no purpose whatsoever. Sons were also born to Shem, whose older brother was Japheth. So Shem was even the oldest one. Huh. Or, wait, there is a note though. There is a note. Shem, the older brother of. So which was it? So we don't even know what order they are in. Huh. Well, one of them is older. Does it really matter? No. Was the ancestor of all the sons of Eber. Yes. The sons of Shem. Elam, Asher, Arphaxad, Dad, Lud, and Aram. The sons of Aram, Uz, Gather, Meshuch, Ephekex, Avraxdad was the father of Shaliah, and Shaliah was the father of Eber. The two sons were born to Eber. One was named Pelega, because in his time the earth was divided. His brother's name was Joktan. Now, interesting here, people say, oh, that must be the Tower of Babel. But the thing is, it does not use the same language in the Tower of Babel story. Which would be weird if they are supposed to be the same event, meaning they might not be. It might be a different event. Maybe. Anyway, Joktan was the father of Almdad, Shephless, Hezermeth, Jura, Hedemra, Oza, Dalkia, Obal, Ebedil, Sheba, Ophri, Heverai, Joab. All these were the sons of Joktan. Yes. The regions where they lived stretched from Mesa towards Sephar in the eastern hill country. These are the sons of Shem by their clans and languages, their territories and nations. These are the clans of Noah's sons, according to the lines of their descent, with their nations. From these nations spread out over the earth after the flood. So, why include this? Why? Who cares about all this stuff? Shouldn't the Bible be focusing on the Jewish people, the people of Israel? Because God cares more about just that nation. God does care about them. They are His chosen people, and it is it's very bright because the window for some reason. But God also is the God and cares about all the other nations. All the other nations. So he wants to keep a record of all of them. And is it any coincidence, just a few chapters later, it talks about Abraham blessing all the nations. Who the nations? These the nations. Yeah. Now, you can have fun posting in the comments who you think these people are, who they... I'm not going to go through who some people think they are because it's too long. Actually, maybe Nimrod. You know what? Nimrod. Nimrod. No, I did not mean to go full screen with you, camera. Okay. Oh. Assyria is called the land of Nimrod. Oh, he did not the... Oh yeah, he's also the guy who built the Tower of Babel, usually thought of as... Oh yeah, wait, the land of Assyria. Last time I checked, Syria didn't worship Babylonian gods. So, some people say, several early Judaic sources assert that King Amberfield was the king of Shinar, and was Nimrod. Only thing is, Abraham would... This guy would be so old because Abraham would be around so later. Much later? Okay. So, since Akkad was destroyed... Okay, so... Grandson of Ham, son of Noah, old man, the great strength in hand, he persuaded them not to ascribe it to God by... Okay. Josephus. Okay. Interpret early Philo and Eutyche as mighty hunter before the Lord. Oh yeah, that. As saying in opposition to the Lord. Oh, okay. Okay, so any identification? Nimrod versus Abraham. I'm pretty sure that would be impossible because Nimrod was around way before Abraham was. Oh well. Historians and Assyriologists have long tried to Nimrod in the real story and a biblical text and historical attested figures. No king named Nimrod. Well, that doesn't mean anything because, well, if you haven't noticed, the Bible has a lot of different names for different people. Then people have different names. They just do because my name is this. I'm not gonna call you this. Why? Because I want to. It probably might have been an insult. Okay. Okay, so since Arcadia was destroyed and lost, with the destruction of its own empire, much later than biblical stories, all mentioning Nimrod seem to recall the late early Bronze Age. The association with the city lost perimeter importance. Discussions between Ensign, Lot, and Elam attest to province stories. Several Mesopotamian ruins give Nimrod's names to named by 8th century AD Muslim Arabs. Shelmer the first. Okay, there's an idea. A bishop. Blah blah blah. Okay, get to the point. It doesn't really say. Sources as Alchemur. Oh, 120-year reign. Wow. Okay. Madrin link between the Lord Madrin Nimrod. He mentioned now licensed Nimrod historical. It was Laguelbenena. Okay, who was defeated. It defeated Sumerian king of Uruk, who, according to various sources, Mesopotamia literature was the fire of Gilgamesh. Okay. So Nimrod is probably much later pro-medical. There's no okay. Based on Tukitulati Nirota. Oh yes, names I could never have known before, never heard of before. I don't know how to pronounce. Wow, such a surprise. Oh yeah, the two Babylons. By Alexander Hotep identifies Nimrod with Ninsens. Who was Ninsens? Who knows? Also unattested anywhere in the Mesopotamian kings list. Get out of the way, camera. Who is this Ninsens person? According to Greek historians, Lair was the mystical founder of Nineveh. So it was someone who also probably didn't even exist. There was a historical Assyrian queen, Shar-o-metem-rumet, in the 17th century, who in reality was the wife of Shuri Avidev. Okay. I don't think Nimrod was a queen, but whatever. Okay, then George Rawlson believed Nimrod was Belos. Belarus? Okay, was text refers to the Babylonian. Oh, okay, was it? Anyway. Okay. More recently, Elevate Yelvin suggests that Nimrod was a recollection of Sargon of Akkad and also his grandson, Renensin, who, with the name Nimrod, divided later. He argues that the biblical Nimrod then is not a total part of any one historical character. He is rather the late composite of Hebrew equivalents of the Sardinian dynasty, the first mighty king to rule after the flood. Later influenced modified the legend in Mesopotamian tradition, such as details as the heroic name, his territory, and some of his deeds. Most importantly, his title, King of Kish, which is a place in Iraq. The much later, wait. No. There's no proof that it was it. Okay, but he says dropped much of the original story, mistakenly identified and mistranslated the Mesopotamian Kush with the Armenian Cush. Okay. Anyway. But yeah, there is no proof that he was a god. Actually, I shall go to YouTube. Yes, I shall go to YouTube. And let's see. Scroll. Who was Nimrod? Where is it? Did not. There. Okay. Okay. So somebody in the comments of the video said there are a couple of interesting things about Nimrod from the Jewish tradition. One is that he has another name, Emerphil, and appears elsewhere in Genesis. Emerphil's literary translation, he said, fall. Because he hated God so much that he tried to bring him down. While listening, I also realized that the name Ephrathel seems linguistically similar to Hannibal. The other is, according to Judaism, Nimrod is the son. Son is also identified as Eliezer, Abraham's confidant and servant, which means he went into battle against his own father alongside Abraham. Yes. Anything else? Doesn't really say. So, anyway. Sources inspiring philosophy used, I guess after you watch the video, you couldn't just go. But anyway, sources you might also want. Kent Matthews, Genesis 1 through 11, verse 26. Douglas Petrovich, identifying Nimrod of Genesis 10 with Sargon of Akkad, young Levi, Nimrod, the mighty king of Kish, king of Summer and Acadia. William Albright, the end of Kellyan and Senator. A.R. George, Babylon, Topographical Text. John H. Walton, NIV Appreciation Commentary. Victor Galton's Amorite, a comprehension to ancient Near Eastern languages. Mark Kolovac's Amorites, Legitimate Community, Patronage. Yeah. I guess that's all for now. Go watch my other stuff. Bye.